Hello everyone, I'm here to introduce the first part of assembling the flight bag for the flight bag and mini album tutorial. I have tried to take good care in creating the written instructions with photo references and notes, as well as the video tutorial series. You may not see every single component in the tutorials, but with the tutorial references, the written instructions, the notes in the written instructions, and some of the photos, I know that you will be able to put together your flight bag. With that being said, the measurements are based on the bag that I put together for this tutorial. It is slightly larger than the original Flight 2715 bag because I realized that my wheels weren't always free from each other so that the bag would rotate freely. So you get a little bit of advantage. I made some adjustments since the original project was made last fall. In this series section, you're going to see how to assemble the handle and sew the zipper to the KRAFTEX. So let's get started. So you should have already cut out the base pieces, the front and back of the flight bag, and then the very bottom of the flight bag. And here I'm showing you, you really want to make sure you've adjusted the measurements to accommodate the casters that you're going to be using for the flight bag. What you don't want to do is that. You don't want your caster wheels to bump into each other. You want to give them enough space. So do adjust your base to accommodate your wheels spinning without touching. So once you've done that, the next step that you want to go ahead and do is cut out your KRAFTEX. And again, your chipboard front and back and the bottom is going to depend on how much your measurements are for the KRAFTEX. So you do want to check. I give you what I used. However, if you want to make yours different, you're going to adjust accordingly. So you need two pieces of KRAFTEX for the left and right of your zipper, and then you'll need a piece for the bottom part of your bag. And this is what I'm showing you here. That's the bottom part of the bag, and then you're going to need your two separate pieces. And so when you do the zipper portion of the sides of the bag, you want to make sure the width of the KRAFTEX plus your zipper is going to equal the width of your base of the flight bag. This is really important for alignment. So for the measurements that I'm providing you, I used a 22-inch regular standard zipper, and you can buy this from your hobby sewing center, or you can recycle one from a piece of old clothing. So you have your two equal widths and equal lengths of KRAFTEX, and you're going to take one piece and you're going to sew it on one side of the zipper, and then you're going to sew it on the other side of the zipper, just like you would do for a piece of clothing or a bag. And if you haven't gotten your excuse me, if you haven't gotten your hands on some KRAFTEX, I highly recommend that you do so. The other thing I want to say, if you're not a sewer and you don't have a sewing machine, you can still make this project by using a regular and do hand sewing. But I'm going to show you how to do it with the sewing machine. And here you can see I've already stitched the first row of stitches, and I double stitched this zipper and to the KRAFTEX for this tutorial. On the original project I didn't, but that's again my little design twist. here is double stitching. So I double stitched both sides of the zipper here, and then I also replicated that double stitching when I attached the bottom half of the KRAFTEX to either end of the of the um, of the KRAFTEX. So I just replicated that. You don't have to do that. But going back to what I said is, if you don't have a sewing machine, not to worry. You can certainly do this by hand. Now I have something I haven't tried is doing this by adhering it with like some fusible hem tape or something. The only reason why I probably wouldn't do it is because the wear and tear on the zipper might cause that fusible web to break free from the zipper. So here in this clip, I am showing you how once you get your zipper attached to the KRAFTEX, you're going to do the bottom part, and you're just going to butt that edge of the KRAFTEX up to the outer edge of the zipper stop, and go ahead and make your 2 rows of stitching on the bottom. So essentially you're closing that up into one big loop. You're going to do this on the top part, and you're also going to do this on the bottom part of the KRAFTEX here. So here I'm just showing you that is what it should look like when you attach it to the bottom part. And then I'm going to go over to the top part of the zipper, keeping the bottom half of that KRAFTEX on the same side. Don't twist it. See how I just turned that over and brought it up to the top of the zipper there, and then holding your 2 pieces together. And it could be a little cumbersome, like I said in the beginning, but you want to just butt that up to the very top part of your zipper, and then you want to go ahead and sew straight across from just like you did on the bottom, from the top edge to the bottom edge. And you're going to go ahead, and if you're following me, do the double stitching. You'll replicate this onto the top and bottom of the zipper, and thus you're attaching the base piece of the KRAFTEX to the zipper component. If you're using the sewing machine, obviously you want to back stitch to save your stitches so they don't come apart. And all I'm doing here is just switching my sewing machine zipper foot so that I can just go ahead and do the straight edge part of it with my regular zipper, my regular stitching foot. And how I do that to get even is I just line up the left edge of my sewing my sewing foot over onto those stitches, and then I'll get an even width in between the stitches, and they look a little bit uniform. Again, you do not have to do this step at all, but I just thought I'd go ahead and do something a little different. As far as having your outer edges even, you can see there at the top, my edges don't match. Not to worry, so long as that you have generally about an inch of the KRAFTEX to wrap around your chipboard pieces, and that's when we're going to use the heat and bond. So here I'm just showing you that the zipper opens fully, it stops at the bottom, and it stops at the top. Okay, so set that aside, set the zipper component aside, and what you're looking at here is you don't have to do this step, but I paint the edges of my chipboard. I just want to make sure that no craft color of the chipboard is showing, but you don't have to do this. You can totally skip the step. The other thing I did was for the inside part of my front and back covers, I completely painted those. Now, again, you don't have to do that. I usually use the Liquitex Mars Black. I love it. It covers really, really well, and it covers fast. It dries fast, but you don't have to do that. But here I'm showing you that I did the back and front, and then I also did the base, and then I'm showing you there's a placement of my caster. Again, you don't have to do this step. You can skip that step. And so the next thing that we are going to be doing is we're going to be applying the heat and bond to the outer images of the outer edges, excuse me, of our chipboard pieces. And what you want to do is you want to put a center reference point at the top, and then on the sides you want to mark where your two seams for the zipper stop and start are also on the same points of the sides of the bag. So what I'm showing you here is at the top of the chipboard piece for my front, I have marked a little mark up at the top, and it's halfway between the width of my chipboard front and back. And then I'm going to replicate that on the sides as well for where I want the zipper stop portion to be, and then where I want the zipper bottom portion to be, so that when you're looking at the bag, it's evenly placed. And what you can do is you can simply fold the KRAFTEX in half, like I've done here, and it not to worry, because once we put the heat and bond on this, you're not going to see the fold mark at all. As a matter of fact, if you see it at all, it will add a little character to the bag and make it look like real luggage fabric. So not to worry. So for the handle assembly, there's a couple of quick little clips here. Here's the supplies that you need. You can not opt to paint your dowels. This is what your brace piece should look like, and that's going to go over your dowel. Here's how I cut off the prongs on my large brads. Just use a wire snip. You should have already punched your holes at the top of the bag per the instructions. Adhered your dowels to the top piece of chipboard there, and your facing piece with your designer paper. Remember, you're going to use those small screws to do that. And then I'm using hot glue. The brad tops are mainly just decorative. You could use whatever adhesive you'd like to use. A strong tacky glue dot would work too, but whatever adhesive you want to apply that to your top of your handle. And once again, a combination of this video reference plus photos and the instructions, you should easily be able to assemble the handle. So I'm just checking to make sure that the placement is correct. And then I'll be cleaning off a little bit of residual glue. In the clip that's coming up next, you're going to see what that brace looks like on the inside of the bag. So you would have already glued that down to your chipboard back of your album, of your flight bag, excuse me. And then you can see how the dowels slide right here into those braces. To make sure that the dowels don't slip out of those braces, you're going to take the other smaller piece of chipboard that you prepared for your handle, and then you're going to use a strong adhesive, hot glue, again, or whatever strong adhesive that you have of your choice, and you're just going to make sure that you maintain the distance between each dowel on the bottom there, and then you're going to adhere that to your bag without slipping them out of the dowel. So you really don't want, out of the braces. You don't want the dowels to fall out of the braces. So here I'm just showing you how to attach it, but in reality, your brace would hold that back, and then you would do this step. So follow the instructions and then some of the photos, and you'll be able to see what that looks like. So your dowels go into the braces before you do this step, because otherwise it'll be harder for you to slide the dowels in, obviously, through the brace, and then do the break. And then that whole step is going to allow the handle to remain in the bag without slipping out. That's why you want to use a strong adhesive so that it doesn't pop out once the handle is assembled down.